Welcome back to another episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where I aim to answer and solve your bike-related problems. So if you've got one, leave it down there in the comment section below. Alternatively, on social media using the hashtag AskGCNTech. As ever, let's crack on with the first question this week that comes in from Chad Butler, who would like to know the truth about water bottles. Apparently, Chad says they've heard it stated so many times that we may start to believe it, but he's never seen a water bottle advertised as biodegradable. If the pros are using them, where do they buy them? I think it's just a self-perpetuating lie. Give us some truth and show us the proof, please. Chad, what a question to start off this week. And I'm going to myth bust that one for you because, believe it or not, the company Elite from Italy do in fact make a biodegradable bottle, or they certainly did because I bought some. So there we are. That is proof. Okay, I'm not a professional cyclist, but they were developed with professional cyclists in mind because as they're riding along, they dispose of water bottles left, right and centre during the heat of a race. And well, those bottles, ultimately, they could leave a really unsightly mess, and I guess they do. I don't know how long the bottles do take to biodegrade. I've got a feeling I once did ask my friend Peter at Elite, and he told me it was about 7 years. But hey, 7 years is better than nothing. So I've answered your question, and well, hopefully put your mind at rest with that one too. Next question comes in from Jam Man, who says, how should one clamp a carbon frame with a carbon fibre Aero seat post in a work stand? They're saying you shouldn't clamp a carbon top tube inside of a work stand, and due to the Aero seat post shape, they can't actually fit it into their own work stand. Yeah, I agree, you shouldn't really actually clamp around a frame tube because you could do it up too much and it could crack and break, something which a colleague of mine did many years ago. So unless you've got something like this one here from Park Tool, which has a diamond style shape clamp which can accommodate both an Aero seat post as well as a cylindrical one, something you could try is by getting the jaws of the actual clamp and then wrapping some old inner tubes around them and hold it in place with some electrical tape or gaffer tape. And then when you gently do that up around an aerodynamic shaped seat post, it tends to mould in around the contours of that and holds it in place. Obviously you don't want to go clamping it up really tight anyway, so that's something you could do. If you're really flashy or want to spend a lot of time with it, maybe you could get a 3D printed unit made up to go into the jaws of your work stand, but well, that's going to be quite a bit of hassle involved. Dominic Salmon is next up. Now Dominic says their front derailleur cable doesn't have a barrel adjuster on it. When they replaced the shifters, they didn't come with a barrel either. Dominic wants to know how to attach a barrel adjuster, and also, do they even need one? Right then, Dominic, yep, not every bike does come with a barrel adjuster on that cable. Personally, I would always put one on there if you can, because it does just give you that extra little bit of fine tuning when it comes to indexing your front derailleur, something which is troublesome for some people out there. It tends to be the harder one to adjust. But as for fitting, nice and easy here. You're going to want to remove the inner cable and then cut the outer cable somewhere near the head tube, I would recommend, so somewhere it passes by there. Then simply put that barrel adjuster in between the two bits of outer cable, put it into there, put a new cable in, and hey presto, you're done. You're going to have excellent, fine-tuned, indexed front derailleur gears. Right now we've got Randy Poor from the Dominican Republic, somewhere I've always wanted to go actually. Right, Randy says, they live there in the Dominican Republic and the roads aren't the best, but not awful. But lately, the rear wheel has been getting out of true after a week or two of riding. It's really cheap to get them trued up, but they'd like to get to the bottom of the problem. What could be some reasons this is happening? Speed bumps and holes, vibration from the road, something else? Keep up the good work. Randy in La Vega, Dominican Republic. Whew. Right then, interesting question this one. Firstly, each time you're getting them trued up, make sure the wheel builder is relieving the stress from the wheel or de-stressing it. Each wheel builder tends to have a different method there. I used to quite often put it across my lap and try and flex the wheel so that the spokes kind of find their way into the correct position, put it back into a wheel truing stand, and then you need to true it up and such like until you get it absolutely spot on. So make sure the wheel builder's doing that. Alternatively, you could also put some, I think it was called DT spoke freeze, which was made in conjunction with Loctite, I believe, and you simply added that onto the spoke threads or inside of the nipples, and then when you tightened them on during the wheel building process, they form a very decent bond, which means that the actual spokes don't undo with the nipple, and then when you do hit a pothole, it doesn't tend to go out of true quite as easily. Alternatively, another great idea, are spoke nipples that actually have a nylon insert inside of them. So when you thread them onto the spoke, the actual thread of the spoke cuts into the nylon and holds it in place. It's kind of cutting away, and that also acts as a little bit of reinforcement. Next up is Garrett Bourne, who says, hello Mr. Cannings. Oh, thank you very much, ever so formal. I recently purchased a Canyon Aero with Ultegra Di2. I was cleaning my cassette the other day and noticed some of the teeth are bizarre looking. Almost like some of them have chunks taken off. Is this a design choice to help shifting? Yes, it is. Those teeth on that cassette are absolutely perfectly normal. They originally started, I think, on Shimano Hyperglide or Uniglide many years ago, and the idea behind them is to help the outer sections of chain move on to the easier gears when it comes to shifting. And actually, then they developed them onto the front chain rings. You never get one on a small chain ring because you don't need that help, but you do get them on a middle chain ring or outer chain ring if you're using a triple chain set, and obviously just the outer chain ring on a double. But yeah, they do help shift the chain slightly easier into position. Without them, yeah, you'd be probably having slightly more hesitant gear shifts. Next up is Glenn Daly, who says, hi John, I have a spare 10-speed Ultegra cassette lying around. Can they add an 11-tooth cog before the 12-tooth cog to make it an 11-speed to use for a new 11-speed bike recently purchased? Glenn, I like your thinking here, but I'm afraid it's not going to work purely because of the distance between the cogs is different from a 10-speed cassette to an 11-speed cassette, and the amount of cable that's pulled with each shift of the lever is different. So I like the thinking, but sadly, in practical terms, it's just not going to work smoothly. Sorry. Next up is Lukey Luke, I hope I pronounced that one right, who says they've just got a new crank set for their track bike, and it's a Miche Pistard Air. And they're wondering what the Miche bottom bracket lifespan is. Right, first up, I can't answer that one because, well, it all depends on the conditions and the use and the frequency and everything like that. But something to consider with that is that it is on a track bike, so it's not going to be getting wet. It's not going to be getting all of the abuse that a road bike one would. Rest of the question though, wants to know, could they use a Holotech bottom bracket for it? They can't find any information about it and reckons that a good Holotech bottom bracket will suit the needs. Thanks for helping me out and love the show. Okay, so I've answered your question about the lifespan of the bottom bracket because that one is a can of worms and how long is a piece of string essentially. But the actual Miche Pistard Air crank set uses a 24mm diameter of the axle, which is built into the right-hand crank, just like a Shimano Holotech 2 design. However, what I don't know is the actual width of that axle, so I don't know how well it would work with a Holotech 2 bottom bracket because I'm not sure off the top of my head how wide the Miche bottom bracket protrudes from the bottom bracket shell. So I wouldn't go worrying about fitting on a Holotech 2 one there or anything like that. Stick with the Miche with Miche. It's important for power transfer down there, and you're going to be absolutely fine using the equipment you've got already. Next up is Patrick Hickey. Now Patrick says they've recently bought a second-hand time trial bike. The front derailleur is a Dura 7900, and when changing gear on the front there's no click. It's just a smooth transition between the big and small rings. It works okay, however it doesn't click into place, and it can be a bit of a fiddle to get it where the chain doesn't rub on either side of the mech. Any advice? Is this how it should be, or should it click like any other front mech? Right, Patrick, I'm guessing you've got bar end shifters on that time trial bike. Firstly, the actual derailleur itself doesn't click. It's normally a ratchet within the lever which is making that clicking noise, or something which is indicating the gear shift. But what you've got on that bar end shifter is actually a friction shifter, which means that it can actually work with a front derailleur on a triple or a double chain set. And by having it as a friction shifter means you can really fine tune the actual front derailleur position to stop that chain rub if you start to cross chain or anything like that. It's actually a really great bit of kit and so simple to use. So don't worry about it. Everything is A-OK and perfectly fine. Right, next up we've got Steve DS who says, John, I recently took my bike into a local bike shop for a full re-grease, and since I've received it back, I can hardly hear my freehub when freewheeling. It used to have quite an audible sound, but now barely anything. Is this normal after a re-grease? Thanks, Steve. Right, Steve, it sounds to me like maybe they've put a tad too much grease inside of the pulls or the ratchet mechanism of the freehub and also the hub shell, which in turn is not allowing the actual ratchets maybe to spring back into place quite as much as they would do before. And also that extra grease inside of it is actually absorbing some of the noise somewhat. Potentially, Now this is in the worst case. It could be dangerous because it could mean that the springs or the paws are not actually doing their job as they should be doing. What you could do is just take it apart, get yourself a little cocktail stick and poke out any excess grease and then reassemble it and see if that changes and actually gives you just that louder click that you had before. Next up is Mohammed Safiq, who says they're a 16-year-old cyclist who's riding a giant TCR SLR1 and they want to race. Now Mohammed wants to know, is it possible to race with an aluminium bike, or what should they upgrade with very little money? Right, Mohammed, absolutely fine to race on an aluminium bike. It's not all about your bike. Let your legs do the talking, essentially. And don't forget too, Peter Sagan, he raced alongside two of his teammates this year at the Tour Down Under Classic on an aluminium bike. Aluminium bikes are absolutely fine for racing on. Go ahead, start racing. You're going to love it. And the final question this week comes in from First Name Last Name, which is a, well, interesting name. And they say they've got themselves a Cannondale Super 6 Evo and had to put in a press fit to threaded bottom bracket adapter. The adapter had instructions saying it cannot be removed. In future, they would like to upgrade to 105 or Ultegra, but they don't know if the chain set could fit into that threaded bottom bracket. Please, could you help? Right, I'm going to try and understand this because it's not that clear, but yeah, you can get adapters which essentially press into place inside of a bottom bracket shell, allowing you to put a standard threaded bottom bracket into place. Which can then accommodate, like you say, a 105 or Ultegra chainset in there with a 24mm axle. Something else which is out there is actually step-down shims, and I don't think you're talking about those, but possibly because you can remove them, but they actually go inside of oversized bottom bracket bearings, allowing you to put a standard 24mm axle chainset inside of there. Either way, yeah, you're going to be absolutely fine by using those threaded bottom bracket adapter, because if you are going to be changing to Shimano, they only make chainsets in those diameters, so with a standard size, so you're absolutely fine. Nothing to worry about there. Hopefully that's answered the question. If not, please do send it in again with some pictures if possible, and I can try and get to the bottom of that a little bit more. Right, I hope that I've been able to answer your question this week, because I absolutely love getting stuck in. If you've got a question for me, let me know down there in the comment section below. And also remember to like and share this video with your friends. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel and also click that notification icon too. Also, why not check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. Whole heap of goodies for you to check out. And now for another great video. How about the time I went to meet my mate Rob Hales, who builds carbon fibre in his own shed? Well, he doesn't build the carbon, but he makes stuff out of it. Click just down here.